Hello, welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607 is the Matthew James Retirement Hotline. We're joined by Congressman Mike Johnson. Mike, how you doing?
Moon, I am as frustrated as everybody else is this morning. What's happening in Washington is just absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, I wanted you to console Brandon. Brandon paid about $60,000, $70,000 worth of student loans, and he paid them off himself, him and his bride, and they want to know why they got to pay everybody else's too. So Brandon's having a tough day today, and I'm trying to help a brother out.
No, I feel you, and I did the same thing. You know, I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I racked up quite a bit of debt, and it took me many years to pay it off. And there are so many people in that boat. And, you know, when this was first proposed, we started raising the alarms. Biden's been talking about this since he ran for office.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're doing, what they've done this week, Moon, is they're taking money from plumbers and electricians and laborers to pay the debts of lawyers and academics. There's no other way around this. This is not student loan forgiveness. It's a student debt bailout.
Yeah.
And the American taxpayer picks up the tab. It's not fair. It's wrong. And all of those emotions that everybody's feeling right now are entirely appropriate.
Oh, it's no doubt about it. But the problem is, Mike, as I see, especially coming from the Democrats, Republicans do it sometime too, but you know, the middle class is getting ready to get squashed, and we don't really know what's happening to us, but they're making everything dependent on the government. You know, when Obama was told back in 2010 or 8 or whenever this was, that this is not good. And he said, oh, no, this is going to help the family. It's going to help them pay it back. Well, two things happened. College universities doubled and quadrupled and went no telling how much higher with their tuition. And then people didn't pay their loans back because they had to even borrow more money to pay for school. And they defaulting on their loans. And so it did quite opposite of what the legendary Barack Obama said it would do.
That's exactly right. And it also creates a real moral problem because, you know, if you forgive student loans, one thing that you're going to do for certain is you're going to encourage colleges to keep raising tuition even higher. And I mean, the graduates are going to expect, you know, why would the next generation of students not expect that they can rack up whatever amount of debt that they want because it's just going to be forgiven in the next, you know, bailout program. I mean, you're sending a message to people to be irresponsible. And at the same time, of course, it's an illegal wealth transfer from, you know, the working class to the elites. You're paying off, you know, people make a decision to go to college and to, you know, major in, 18th century French poetry or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they get out of school and they got tens of thousands, you know, sometimes more than $100,000 in debt. They made those decisions. Why should someone who acted responsibly and went to work have to pay for the decisions of that other person? It is not right. It is not moral to do this. But Joe Biden doesn't care, Moon, because you and I both know he's trying to buy votes. That's what this is, right out in the open. He's attempting to buy votes in the light of day. There's a reason we have separation of powers in this country. There's a reason we have a constitutional system. If every president who was up for re-elections could just write checks and give out goodies, they'd always get reelected, right? Well, you can't do this without an authorization of Congress, and I think it's unconstitutional.
Well, we just played Nancy Pelosi, Mary Landrieu, what the hell's the difference?
Yeah.
We just played Pelosi saying it's unconstitutional. The president can't just spend $300 billion or just take debt from people and apply it to the federal deficit. You know, all this Deficit Reduction Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, which is another lie. This made it even worse. Now she turns around and says it's a great idea. I mean, and I know Nancy Pelosi in this. She might say something one day and the next day say something else. She act like her and Dr. Fauci come from the same family.
Yeah, it's madness. They're not tied to the truth in any way. They can say one thing one day and the opposite the next. They know the media's not going to hold them accountable.
No.
You know, all this we have the receipts. It's all on video. It doesn't matter. You know, they say whatever they need to hold on to power. And that's what this is. It's just a raw abuse of power. I do think it's unconstitutional. But here's the thing. I was explaining this to a group I was with this morning. They said if they know it's illegal, why would they do it? Well, because they know it's going to take us a year or so to unwind it in the courts. And by that time, the election cycle has already passed. So they can run around the country and tell all these, you know, people who have student loan debt that they're their savior. You know, the government's going to help you. We're going to bail you out. And we're the ones that are going to do it, even though they know ultimately it probably will get struck down in court. It won't happen anyway, but who cares? They're not tied to any morality on this at all. And that's what's so disturbing about it, and the message it sends to the next generation of students, it's really, really dangerous, reckless public policy. And by the way, the inflation rate, of course, this is the worst possible thing you could do in a recession with inflation numbers the way we have right now. Almost $1.5 trillion of outstanding student loan debt is federal. Okay. And so if you just wave all that off, by the way, I don't think it's going to be $300 billion. I think it's going to be way more than that, because that $300 billion figure is calculated at the $10,000 amount that they're going to forgive. But don't forget, if you're a Pell Grant recipient, your number's 20,000. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the number's much higher. I mean, it will.
Well, they always do that, Mike. They always say it's a number, and it also ends up being a lot higher number than it was supposed to. I mean, that's just the way the federal government is working. We give a price, and that price sounds good, but it's a lot worse than what's coming down the pipe. And I'm just, as a citizen of the United States of America, what they're doing in the country now is absolutely outrageous. And I was mentioning that earlier. They're making it where the middle class is forced to depend on government. You're going to have a tax credit to buy your EV. Obama hurt us so bad. I keep telling that people will see it one day. He put the medical, when they did Obamacare, all these doctors had to go into the hospital. So they had to listen to whatever they told them when COVID came along. Wear a mask, all that stuff. And then they run that, and that's going to be a big blow-up coming. And then you look at a student loan, and it's going to be a big blow-up coming, but it's like we don't care. The federal government's going to give me a check. I'm going to take the money. I mean, who ain't going to take the money if you stick money in their face? Who's not going to take it?
Right. They're going to be rational economic actors, and they're going to take the money that's offered to them. And meanwhile, all of those who are pursuing this European-style socialist utopian dream, which is madness, okay, this is part of the agenda, as you say. They really do truly want big government socialism to rule the country. They want centralized power. They want just a handful of very powerful people to control all of the masses. I mean, this is the basis of Marxism and communism and socialism.
Yep.
Socialism is a step towards communism. We talk about this all the time, but it's happening right now. This is not theoretical. We're watching it play out, and it is infuriating.
Well, it sure is. I've just hoped the American people, and the only other thing I want to visit with you before I let you go was your feeling on the elections up to this point. I'm still worried if we even have elections. All the states ready to stop, which people say, well, how did cheating go on? Because they changed the rules in the middle of the game. That's cheating, but we don't call that cheating anymore. So my question to you is, I don't pay anything to the polls. I don't pay anything to, this poll says the red wave is gone. I don't care about any of that, because it really gets down to who's going to vote, and is the election fair in every state. So with all that, what do you feel like what's going to happen in the House and the Senate, at least in the House side?
I still believe we're going to have a red wave in the House, and I don't know the size of that wave. There are a lot of factors that are outside our control, but I'm very confident that we're going to take a sizable majority in the House, and it cannot happen soon enough. The Senate, is tough to call right now, because it comes down to just a handful of 5 or 6 races around the country, and all the dynamics are different in those states. The Senate's a hard one to predict, but I believe, as we are talking this morning, Moon, that we are going to take a big majority in the House, and that we are going to have at least a 1 to 2 vote majority in the Senate. I think the American people have had enough. I'm with you. I don't care what the polls say.
No, I don't worry about that. But this is my question: if you, I hope you get a big majority in the House, because that helps you in the Senate. I'll give you an example. Let's take Georgia. Okay, that's nick and tuck, depending on what you look at. But Kemp's got a fairly good lead on Abram. Now, Abram is going to try to pull out all the stops, but if Kemp can win that seat by 4 or 5 points, that helps Herschel Walker. No doubt it helps him. But I think Kemp needs to win that more than just by 10,000 or 20,000 votes.
I totally agree. And Georgia's a great example in terms of election integrity and security, because the legislature went to work, rolled up their sleeves. There was a Republican-led legislature. And, in 2021, they went to work and they cleaned up their election laws to make sure that the abuses of 2020 could never happen again. So we have a high degree of confidence that that's going to be a reliable vote count. And Stacey Abrams is going to be hurt by that, because, of course, they manipulated the system in 2020, which is what gave us the result and the mess there. But it's not going to happen again. And that is true in most of the states, because we had a good election cycle in 2020 for the Republican Party in spite of the presidential laws, and the Republican-led legislatures went to work and cleaned up their election security laws. And so we have a high degree of confidence. What the debacle of 2020 is never going to happen again. It's not going to be possible because the states cleaned up their rules. Now, there's some states we're very concerned about. We have to watch them very closely.
Pennsylvania is one of them.
Right, exactly right. But there will be a lot of eyes on it, and I hope and pray we'll be able to trust the results this time.
Yeah, it's just we got to stop the madness. They got to stop the madness.
Right.
I mean, this stuff is sick what they're doing in this country. It just really is. But
absolutely,
you can't tell some people, Mike. They don't see it yet. I don't understand that. They don't see it yet. But anyway, Mike Johnson, Congressman Mike Johnson, who, by the way, has already won his election. So I know you've been all over helping people. We appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
All right,
good to talk to you.